Welcome to the Tyranny of Hope, where we bridge the gap between therapy and everyday life. I'm Breedlove, your host, and this podcast is all about putting therapeutic concepts into practice. Each episode, we'll tackle real-world challenges, from setting boundaries to healing trauma, from mending relationships to overcoming addictions. You'll hear from counselors and learn practical strategies you can use right away. So whether you're in therapy or just focused on personal growth, you're in the right place. Let's turn hope into action and make real progress together. This is the Tyranny of Hope.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Tyranny of Hope, the podcast where we dive into the messy and beautiful process of healing and growth. This is your host, Breedlove, and today we're going to be talking about divorce recovery, specifically how to navigate the unique challenges that arise during the holiday season. If you're newly divorced or separated, or even years into the healing journey, holidays can stir up a cocktail of emotions: grief, loneliness, anger, maybe even guilt. You might find yourself longing for what once was or struggling with the reality of what is. In this episode, we'll tackle those big emotions, explore practical strategies to navigate the holidays, and offer a compassionate roadmap to help you not only survive, but find moments of joy and peace. First, let's name what you might be feeling. Divorce is often compared to a death, not of a person, but of dreams, routines, a shared identity. And during the holidays, those losses can feel magnified. And maybe you're grieving traditions that you used to share as a couple or a family. Maybe there's an anger at how things turned out, guilt over decisions made, or fear about the future. Whatever you're feeling, know this: your emotions are valid. One thing to remember is that emotions are like waves. They come and they crest and they recede. Trying to suppress them can make them stronger. So instead of fighting, consider letting yourself feel. Journaling, talking to a friend, working with your therapist. All of these can be really helpful to just process these emotions. And if you have kids, you might also be carrying their emotions along with your own. They might feel sadness, confusion, or maybe some misplaced guilt. And as much as you can, give them space to express their feelings too. So here's a practical tip. Create a safe space to feel. This might mean setting aside 15 minutes just to cry in the shower, writing out everything that you're angry about in a letter that you never send. But by honoring your feelings, you can begin to move through them rather than feeling stuck. During this holiday season, there's often this added pressure, right? Family gatherings, social obligations, and questions about your new reality. It's okay to set boundaries. Let's talk about family dynamics. Maybe Aunt Susan wants to pry into your divorce, or your well-meaning cousin offers this unsolicited advice. You don't owe anyone an explanation. A simple "thank you for your concern, but I'd prefer not to talk about it right now" can work wonders. If your former spouse is still part of your holiday plans because of the kids, setting clear boundaries around interactions is essential. Discuss your schedules ahead of time to avoid those last-minute stress factors and stick to the plan as much as possible. Write down a few boundary setting phrases in advance. For example, I'm focusing on enjoying the day and would rather not discuss that. Or, thanks for asking, but I'm keeping that private. Or, hey, I appreciate your concern, but I've got this handled. Redefining traditions. One of the most painful aspects of your divorce during the holidays is the disruption of the, traditions. And maybe you're no longer decorating the tree as a family, hanging the stockings like you always did, or hosting the big dinner, or spending the day with your in-laws. But here's the good news. You have the opportunity to create new traditions. This doesn't mean that you're erasing the past. It means that you're building something meaningful for your present and your future. Consider what brings you joy or peace. Maybe it's a quiet morning walk, volunteering at a shelter, hosting a Friendsgiving with your chosen family. If you have kids, involve them in creating new traditions too. This could be as simple as making pancakes in pajamas on Christmas morning or watching a holiday movie together. Here's a practical tip. Make a list of small, intentional actions you can take to create joy. These don't have to be elaborate or expensive. Sometimes just the simplest gestures, a cup of hot cocoa, lighting a candle, or listening to your favorite holiday music can bring the most comfort. Okay, so what about the loneliness and the isolation? The holidays often emphasize that, togetherness, which can feel like salt in the wound if you're facing them alone. Loneliness is one of the most common emotions people report after a divorce, especially during this time of year. But loneliness doesn't have to mean isolation. One of the best antidotes to feeling alone is connection. Reach out to a friend, a family member, or a support group. Even a small act like sending a holiday card can help you feel more connected. That said, it's also okay to be alone if that's what you need. Solitude can be restorative when approached intentionally. So think about how you want to spend your alone time, whether it's journaling or meditating, reading, watching a favorite movie. If loneliness feels overwhelming, consider making a connection plan. And this might, include calling a friend, attending a local holiday event, joining an online support group. Now, what about this grief that you're going to be feeling? Practicing gratitude can be a powerful tool for navigating those big emotions. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring your pain. It means recognizing that even in the midst of loss, there can be a moment of beauty and grace. So start small. Maybe you're grateful for a sunny day, a kind text from a friend, or a moment of laughter with your child. Write these things down in a gratitude journal, or simply pause and acknowledge them. Here's another practical tip. Create a gratitude jar. Each day, write one thing you're grateful for on a slip of paper and add it to the jar. And at the end of the holiday season, take some time to read through your notes. Now, if the holidays feel unbearable, remember that you don't have to go through this alone. Therapy can provide a safe space for you to process your emotions and develop coping strategies. Look for a therapist who specializes in divorce recovery or grief. Support groups can also be incredibly helpful. Hearing from others who've been, through similar experiences can remind you that you're not alone and provide hope for the future. Here's another practical tip. If therapy isn't accessible right now, consider reading books on divorce recovery. Titles like Rebuilding When Your Relationship Ends by Bruce Fisher, or Crazy Time, Surviving Divorce and Building a New Life by Abigail Trafford can offer valuable insights and practical advice. So, what about finding hope for the future? Right now, it might feel like the pain's going to last forever, but healing is possible, even if it takes time. The holidays are just a season, and as you move through them, focus on small steps forward. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it feels. Remember that you're not defined by your divorce. You're a whole, complex person with a future full of possibilities. Last, can I just address those who are Christians and navigating the stigma of a divorce in your community? For Christians in traditions where divorce is taboo, the weight of judgment and shame can feel unbearable, and you might feel like you've let your church down or your family or even God. But let's pause and remember that God's love is not based on our marital status. It's based on His grace. Tim Keller says, the gospel is this: we are more sinful and flawed in ourselves than we ever dared believe. Yet at this very same time, we are more loved and accepted in Jesus Christ than we ever dared hope. When you're faced with judgment or rejection, remember that Jesus reserved His harshest words not for sinners, but for those who condemned others without understanding. Divorce is not the unforgivable sin. So seek God's grace. Remember that Scripture says, as far as the east is from the west, so far has He removed our transgressions from us. That's Psalm 103. Also remember that Jesus speaks about divorce from the context of the hardness of their hearts. That's in Matthew 19. This doesn't mean that God endorses divorce lightly, but it does mean that He understands human frailty and provides room for compassion and healing. I just want you to also remember to find a Christian counselor, maybe if this is you, or a trusted pastor who can walk with you. It's essential to separate cultural stigma from the truth of the gospel. Philip Yancey said that grace means that God already loves us as much as an infinite God can possibly love. Grace means that God already loves us as much as an infinite God can possibly love. If you feel isolated, remember Jesus Himself was misunderstood and rejected. His example shows that obedience to God doesn't always align with the expectations of people. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Hey, thank you for joining me today on the Tyranny of Hope. If you've been navigating divorce, I hope this episode has given you a little bit of help and some tools and some encouragement to face the season with grace and some self-compassion. And above all, friend, remember this, that you're not alone. You are loved, and you have what it takes to move through this season into a brighter future. Take care of yourself, be gentle with yourself, and be gentle with others.